Let's now take you live to Bhisho, where our reporter Samkele Maseko is in conversation with Eastern Cape's provincial chairperson and the party's Deputy President hopeful, Oscar Mabuyane.
Well, indeed, Unati, Oscar Mabuyane, dear the delicious as he calls himself, is contesting for the position of Deputy President of the ANC, nominated by his province and other provinces for this position. But the conundrum is he also has Ronald Lamula and Paul Mashatile gunning for the same position. But one of the most critical issues is the unity of the ANC, which they've emphasized from their conference here in the Eastern Cape, saying that there are some within the ANC at a national level who've been coming to divide the Eastern Cape, to use it for their own nefarious needs come the 55th National Conference of the ANC. Mr. Mabuyane, thank you very much for granting us this interview. The provincial conference has come and gone. Ultimately, you've now been nominated to occupy the second most powerful position within the governing party, the deputy presidency. Are you still contesting for this position, or have you reached a compromise with one of the contenders as well, Ronald Lamula?
Thank you very much, Sam. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your viewers. What a question. Firstly, let me just take the opportunity to extend a sincere word of gratitude and to branches of the ANC for this gesture. I'm so humbled. I never thought that I could be one who would be considered by branches of the ANC for such a very important position in the ANC. Well, because it is not my actually ambition. I've never had a career where I would have targets. At a certain time I must be this or that. I remain subjected to the conditions of ensuring that the ANC remains intact. I will tell you why the ANC is so important than all of us as individuals. We would want to see the ANC that we saw in 1999 going to 2004, the ANC that is way above the two-thirds, almost 70% targets in terms of the electoral base. But here we are now. I've accepted the nomination following the due process. The lobbying is going on. The lobbyists are moving up and down. The provincial leadership, regional leadership is interacting with all other provinces and other regions around this matter. I will actually remain guided at that point. So we will go to the conference like that. I'm still available, I'm still standing because the branches have nominated me. So at an appropriate time, having been actually engaging, as you say, it's about making it a point that the ANC continues with the renewal. And this unit is a unit of purpose. It's not just a unity. You can't simply because there's a contestation due to the democratic nature of the ANC and say, no, let's just unite. It's a unit of purpose. Are we agreeing that the ANC must renew? Are we agreeing that the ANC is not our own? It's an organization that belongs to South Africans. It's an organization that carries on its shoulders the future of this country. It's an organization that must actually pursue the national democratic revolution. It's an organization that must fulfill its commitment on its aims and objectives. So we can unite along those. So we cannot just unite because we are also nominated on the other side. We have seen it. We thought in 2017 it's a good move when branches tried to sort of pull slates together like that. But I can tell you it was a nightmare how that collective leadership found it very difficult to move forward. ANC still needs to confront and deal decisively with the demon of faction. Factions in the ANC are almost putting our country at the brink of catastrophe. Actually, they are a serious risk to the future of this country. So the ANC must prevail on that. ANC must rise above that. So you need a collective leadership that has got a clarity of mind, that understands where this revolution is taking us to. You really need aspirant revolutionaries, because all those whom we thought that are revolutionaries, the level of degeneration that we are seeing every day shows that to be a revolutionary, you must be something special. So we definitely needed to make sure that ANC becomes what it was formed to be, and all of us, we must work towards that goal.
Mr. Mabuyane, you speak about unity, you speak about a degeneration of certain leaders of the ANC. There has been a clear, broad battle between President Ramaphosa's predecessor, former President Jacob Zuma, even the utterances of the former president, calling your incumbent president Isgebengu in KwaXimba last weekend. Then you've got some whom feel as if certain leaders of the ANC have sold out President Ramaphosa in the NEC in the form that they were literally handing him over to the slaughterhouse in the NEC over the Phala Phala report. Where will this unity of the ANC come from when you are clearly at each other's throats?
No, we'll never try to speak about unity in the ANC because the ANC is a democratic organization. In the ANC, you elect the leadership through the majority democratic processes. So from a branch upwards. So always unity will be that because any contestation through the democratic processes create this sort of a crevice, this sort of a crack that will forever be inherent on how the ANC actually select its leadership due to its processes. So those who are elected in the ANC forever will actually be carrying that burden of championing that unity. Where there's unity, you see that. You know, ANC must still master the process of transition. When we're the less of all these sort of issues, moving from Madiba to the former President Mbeki, we had less of these issues. That's why you saw, because South Africans enjoy when they see ANC intact. So South Africans out there, they don't understand us when we contest each other. Some, they think that we're fighting against each other. So it's always coming out like that. But when you see ANC less contestation, even still, though we're following our democratic processes, that's always actually a gain that ANC enjoys. You saw us in 1999. You saw us in actually from 2002 in Stellenbosch going to 2004 national elections. So that on its own. So it's important that when we go to a conference, ANC must be normal. ANC cannot be abnormal because it goes into its conference. We go to these conferences all the time, from a branch, from a sub-region to a region up to province. So it can't be that we are going to national conference and the ANC must come to an end. And those who have enjoyed privileges, who have benefited for years in the ANC, are the ones who are destroying the ANC. Whilst there are still multitudes of our people waiting for ANC to continue with its policies that ANC has demonstrated, which are informed by the aims and objectives of the ANC, which are there in the constitution of our organization. So the unity is that actually bedrock of which the ANC has been formed upon. So we've got to still nudge each other. We still have to nurse each other towards that. But you need a collective leadership that can work together to make sure that ANC achieves the challenges of transformation in this country, change this country to be this country that we all wanted, as we actually bequeathed to us by people from Cape Town and etc. So it's important for the ANC that we do that. It's important that we respect that freedom charter which actually we inherited. So where we are, we've got to confront this, but you need decisive leadership. You need discipline. There's no revolution that can be pursued where there's a lack of discipline. You need revolutionary morality. So leadership must instill discipline. Leadership must inculcate a culture so that everyone understands that there's a line to be told and there's a party line. And if there's a party line, if you want to follow something, not the party line, go and form something else elsewhere, not here. So you need that courage. We've seen that courage from President Ramaphosa on this issue of renewal. Renewal has been spoken about in the ANC for a number of conferences, but there's never been a leader that was willing to lift up a finger to confront this. Because you always fear this thing that if you do this, this thing might open up all sorts of issues. While the ANC has been actually suffering this trust deficit, going down, etc. So it's unfortunate that the leaders at that level will actually be showing us the bad part of the exchanges like that. We can't really be polemical when we go to conferences. You can't have, so leaders should always be able to find each other. It should not be difficult for former President JZ to call President Ramaphosa or President Ramaphosa to call former President JZ to say, okay, let's sit down and talk. What's the problem? Because we expect them at that level, that apex level of leadership, to show us the way and help us to take the ANC to another level.
Is this one of the reasons why you, as the provincial chairpersons of all 9 provinces and all provincial secretaries, have decided to say, gentlemen and ladies, let's come to the table, let's negotiate on Friday afternoon after the NEC to find an amicable way to the 55th National Conference?
Yes, it's our collective response. We are leaders of the ANC, different levels, provinces and national. National Executive Committee cannot collapse before the conference. It can only be dissolved in the conference. It cannot dissolve itself. But with challenges that we are seeing, we are observing, surely it's very difficult to get there. We have witnessed those issues. We have observed them in our provinces, but they need leadership. You must lead. That leadership, that firm leadership within the parameters of the ANC is important, so that we don't allow this thing that we're seeing in the ANC at all. Yes, provinces have got that responsibility to normalize it. We're meeting because we want to normalize the conference of the ANC. We can differ on leadership perspective, we can differ on policy views, etc., but ANC remains.
So what is the main thrust of the meeting of all provincial chairpersons and secretaries on Friday?
A number of issues that we are looking at, including the issue of leadership. It will be good to have a consensus leadership. It's not a myth, it's a reality that ANC is in trouble in Gauteng, ANC is in big trouble in KZN, ANC is in trouble national. We all know that. It doesn't need a rocket scientist. So for us to come together, come closer, to help each other assemble this battalion, this collective leadership that will hit the ground running come the January is important. So we are looking at all those permutations as we are engaging, but more important is to instill a sense of discipline. You can't have a conference that there will be someone agitating for discontent, just to collapse it because of this or that. You saw it during the policy conference. There would have been such kind of attempts or moves just to disrupt the conference. And we can't allow that. This conference is about the future of this country. It's about the revolution we're pursuing. It's about transformation of this country. So if we do that, we are basically abdicating our responsibility, and we can't authorize the demise of the African National Congress. So we as elected leadership at different levels, we've got to actually work together to see to it that ANC moves forward. So as provincial leaders, we have actually established ourselves, as we did in the policy conference on the eve of all these challenges of the policy conference, but now we're saying let's start earlier, let's interact. Anyway, this lobby thing cannot be just done loosely out there. It must be anchored on the organizational structures for it to have this proper meaning and what we are trying to do. Yes, we will differ. All of us were swimming against the tide of factionalism. All of us probably were digging our heels because of our subjective views and all that. So, but we've got to open a dialogue. We've got to have a conversation. So what is best for the African National Congress? And we all know now what is best for the ANC is renewal. Whether you like certain policies within that or you don't, is renewal. And renewal is about saving the skin of the ANC. It's about making it a point that ANC still has another 100 years to come. That's why opposition is jumping up and down, throwing tantrums, because they think that now they've managed to put ANC where it belongs. And ANC doesn't belong to the leader. Leadership can fight, everyone can fight. It belongs to people of South Africa. And South Africans can always stand up and save what belongs to them.
Mr. Mabuyane, after the NEC on Monday, the former Northern Transvaal provinces, Limpopo, Northwest, Mpumalanga, and also Gauteng, they had a meeting. And in that meeting, they said that there is a general view from the southern provinces, KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, Western Cape, Free State as well, that the north seems to be uniting and wanting to take everything for themselves. In that meeting, those former Northern Transvaal provinces said, you can't leave out KZN and Eastern Cape, which they too deserve one position each in the top 6. What is this view that it seemingly looks like it's the North versus the South?
That will be unfortunate. I'm not sure about that. I know, as you said, we've got a structure that brings together all provincial chairs and secretaries, and that's not North or South or Middle. So it's all of us together. But I can tell you, part of the demon that we still need to defeat in the ANC is the demon of regionalism, demon of tribalism. That's a reason why after 100 years of battles that were fought here, wars that were fought here, particularly in the Eastern Cape, the frontier wars, there was this call of having an African National Congress, which was actually formed as an offspring or a repercussion of all those wars that were fought, particularly here. Because our people knew that you cannot continue to fight for our land if you fight as Xhosas against the enemy. So we've got to come together. So Msuthu, Mxhosa, Mshangani, Mzulu, Mpedi, Mtswana, Hlanganani. So that was a call made. We can't, almost after 100 years, we degenerate back to that. It can't be ANC, it will be something else. So we've got to save ANC even from that posture. We've got to save ANC even from us as an individual who think that ANC belongs to us, we don't belong to the ANC. So while provinces will continue to have their bilaterals as it is going on, it's allowed. It's a part of the lobbying. That's why we always encourage that. Allow lobbying to continue to the conference, even to the eve of the conference. But demobilize the lobby groups after the conference when the leadership is elected. If you allow lobby groups to exist beyond the conference, they actually graduate into factions. That's the reason why you still have people who go to a conference, post-conference, they still have these bad, negative feelings. Some hate leadership that is elected by the majority. That's where we are. That's exactly a resultant effect of people who hate leadership. I can't be led by so and so, and you don't even have a reason why you cannot be led by so and so. But so and so has been actually elected by the structures of the ANC, nominated by structures of the ANC. So you still have to have ANC members prevailing on themselves on such kind of matters. So if there's such a sense of feeling happening, I don't know. We as Eastern Cape, we're meeting every province. We're talking to Gauteng, we're talking to Limpopo, we're talking to Northwest, we're talking to Western Cape. We don't have something called Cape Colony. We can't go back there. We are where we are because of such terrible, evil things that were done by the apartheid and the colonial rule here. So we can't come together as Northern Cape, Eastern Cape, and the Western Cape and say we're forming Cape Colony and call others to join us. So you can't have an organization of Xhosas and Zulus. ANC is a national organization that is leading the national struggle for the liberation of our people. So it should remain like that. So it's important that we have that clarity of mind every time we're doing things. Immediately you organize yourselves along tribal lines, then there's a fundamental problem. Actually, you are an enemy of the revolution we are pursuing. You are an enemy of the National Democratic Revolution.
Last week, the man you are spearheading his campaign was said to be resigning. He was said to have been called on in the 11th hour to persuade him against resigning. What was truly happening around President Ramaphosa, where he was essentially MIA for 4 days and said nothing about his political future until he was resuscitated by the NWC meeting on Sunday? Where was he? What was happening?
I don't know. I'm not him. But I think he was in Pretoria or somewhere around there where he's actually deployed. But whatever that was happening, I cannot really vouch exactly on what was really happening. But surely, as President has said himself, that he's making a broad consultation, he's talking to leaders, structures, etc. So he was talking to people, and then all what happened at the end was a logical conclusion of the consultation that he was making himself around these sort of issues. Sometimes when things like this happen, you can be, as a human being, you can be shocked without really looking at all the possible situation. But We really thank those who really stood firm to make sure that president doesn't resign. I can tell you we'll be talking something bad and worse in this country by now. So we can't be selfish. There are millions of our people who are looking at the ANC and its government. You can't make it so easy like that. So you lower the bar for such kind of a decision. And the president must understand that you must be strong. Not that you must be a denialist, but you must be strong, and you must make sure that you understand that you carry aspirations of many South Africans. And you are not just leading because it's convenient. You are leading because we are pursuing a revolution. You must ask those questions. Where is the revolution? What's going on, etc.? Yes, we've put up all these regulations, all these mechanisms to deal with the issues of malfeasance, etc. But there's a process into that, and that process cannot just be suddenly cut simply because people are intimidated. You must not be easily intimidated when you are leading. You must be able to confront some of these issues. So we really thank those who really saved South Africa. They didn't save President. Saved South Africa when the markets were plummeting and everything was going south in this country. And people didn't know what's going to happen when we wake up tomorrow. If we can make things easy. I can tell you, if you would have allowed a situation like that, you would have never had another president finishing a term in South Africa. So it would not happen. If you see the agitation for discontent, particularly by opposition, etc. So they don't love the governing party, and surely there must be a love lost between us and them. So we put interest of the ANC and interest of our people. Yes, we might be incumbents that are in the office, given task, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is all about me. You must also say what is going to happen to that ordinary person in Kofinvaba if I do such a decision like this one, you know. And when you look at all these issues driven by the rapacious behavior, people standing up and people cannot wait, people are so impatient, people are so angry, people are full of hatred, and you allow such tendencies to prevail. So clearly, we really thank President that he would have considered all those permutation at his disposal, all those options, so that he also allowed the process as it should be. President must be held accountable, like any South African. We are in a constitutional democracy. All laws in this country are applicable to all individuals who are actually in this country. So it's important that we respect that. No one is protecting President here. People are protecting revolution. People are protecting the interests of this country.
Were you part of those who spoke to him?
You see, Sam, in South Africa, you still have a state president who's leading the country, President Ramaphosa. Whatever you say, what was happening last week, here we are now. We have a president who's still a president of the ANC, who's going to lead the ANC to its 55th conference and table a political report that will be accounting for all these other challenges that we've gone through. So we must be happy, and we must just celebrate as a country that we have that. So deal with corruption, and also now we must add on that corruption theft. So if you have lost something in your own place, it's a theft. Someone has broken through. Is that a corruption? But yes, there are some rules because of the office you occupy. There's constitution that you must respect, but be accountable. Be responsible. But you can't say you take responsibility by collapsing the country or authorizing the demise of a country that has been fought for so many years by our ordinary people.
Were you part of those who spoke to him, Mr. Mabuyane?
Yes, Sam. Sam, the leadership of the ANC nationally was engaging. President was consulting. He was consulting provinces, and provinces were also responding to that. So it cannot be attributed to individuals who really did this or that. President was consulting everyone around the panel report, which was out there, and what would be his reaction to it. So leave me alone. Don't worry about me. Leave me alone. But I can tell you that the leadership did a very good job.
Mr. Mabuyane, you have been, as the Eastern Cape, contributing to the salaries at Luthuli House at certain aspects when the Treasurer General and the ANC nationally could not pay salaries. you've also been tipped to be moving from DP to Treasurer General. As the person who's having previously contributed to the TGO financially to support the ANC, are you prepared to move from DP to TG?
Well, let me leave that, the internal arrangements of the ANC on how the ANC sustains itself. But what I know, the so-called Lutoli staff, most of that is actually attached in our provincial offices. So I know very well when I was a secretary, somewhere around about 2016, etc., the province was battling, struggling and all that. Before it could put some policies into place, it was assisted by a couple of regions to sustain itself to the conference in 2017. So there's nothing new about that. There's nothing untoward if there would be. Surely when there are employees reporting here in the provincial office in Kalada, which probably at the end of the month won't be getting their salaries, whilst they are working with their colleagues here who are earning their salaries, there's something wrong with that. So ANC is one. It's a unitary organization. It's not a federal organization. So what we do as ANC, we're doing it. And also, the position of a Treasurer General is not of fundraising. It's not a responsibility of an individual. It's a collective responsibility in the ANC. All of us, we've got a role to play to make sure that any Treasurer General succeeds in the ANC. So all these sort of issues, yes, we know what probably would have been causative factors, the limit and difficulties for ANC to get enough support in terms of revenue generation, etc. So the other part of me moving from DP to Treasurer General, I don't know. I'm nominated as a Deputy President. I've accepted the nomination as a Deputy President. I'm in the ballot paper as a Deputy President. If branches of the ANC might possibly arrive at that in the conference, I will see that. I will cross that bridge when I get there. As I'm saying, I'm comfortable in the Eastern Cape. I'm a chairperson. I've just been recently elected. I have no ambitions of being a Deputy President or Treasurer General. I didn't even go around and knock into other people's doors. Hey, please nominate me. Please campaign for me. I was just nominated, seated here because the province felt strongly that the kind of work that we've done in the province and we continue doing, surely it must be multiplied for us to confront the challenges that the ANC is actually going through. So if comrades felt like I'm one of those who can really be sacrificed and be thrown into that lion's den, I will actually try that. What I know about me, Sam, is that I've always been elected as an underdog. From 2009, when I was elected as a provincial secretary, some people thought that it's a joke. Where do you get this young man? Why do you joke about ANC? And that also always pushes me to go an extra mile in dedicating myself in the job of the ANC and making the point that I contribute better in actually taking ANC to a higher pedestal. So even on this one, and because I can't pick and choose. I never wanted to be what. I sit here, surely I can refuse to be nominated as a president. On that one, I will definitely refuse. So on others, from where I'm seated, it's a question of lobbying. If this was cast in stone, there was no lobbying, everything was closed, and we think that we're entitled to this as a province, or I think I'm entitled to this as a person, then I would be answering differently. But lobbying is open. I might as well not probably, when the ANC feels there that probably your withdrawal here can help us to bring everyone else together. I will say yes, only if we show about such characters, their enthusiasm to the renewal, their commitment, because we must actually make sure that you have got an NEC that has got an appetite for renewal, that is interested. We can no longer elect people for the sake of electing when we have seen the damage that is happening. ANC now is a rural organization. It's more anchored on the rural electoral vote, etc. So how do you make sure that you revive ANC, you bring back the ANC to be what we all used to see? That's why it's important that in whatever makeup you are doing, you can't leave KZN out. It's not just about fractional mechanical arrangement, but it's about how are you going to appeal to the massive electoral base that is there in KZN, just like in Gauteng. So that's why we've got a principle of geospread, the national question, gender, the generational mix. So the leadership must actually be flexible into that, but accommodative. But it's important that we bring about political stability for policy certainty. So we can't just sit here and we don't know what's going to happen to the ANC next year. At least if you're saying we are elected 5 years, let's be sure that ANC is going to work for 5 years to make sure that we come closer to our 2030 targets that we have made for the transformation of this country.
In short, Mr. Mabuyane, there's an adverse report against you by the public protector, you and Babalo Matigizela. Have you paid Babalo Matigizela his loan back?
I paid Matigizela his money. It was within a loan arrangement. I declared. You see, I always find it strange from that public protector. That's why I said public must be protected from that public protector. You really needed to have public protected, because that kind of a behavior, of behaving like a factional sniper when you are a public protector, is a problem. I paid Babalo Matigizela, it was above board. I declared in my disclosures here in this legislation. How do you declare fraud? Can you go to Parliament and declare that I've done a fraud here? That's nonsensical. It's rubbish. You see, that's why I've taken that report to the judicial review. We're waiting for the judgment at any time soon from the judge, because that was a worst thing that I've ever seen. When you go through a report that says all other issues, but when it gets into findings, it says something completely tangential from there. When it gets into remedial action, you can tell that this was a cut and paste. It was just done because we must square up. We've done something like this from to Ace Mahashula. He has been in this. So this other faction seems to be not done. So let's square up. That's why Ace Mahashula was jumping up and down saying all sorts of nonsense about me in TVs when you were interviewing him. So, so it's one thing that makes me to sleep better, that one. Because I know it was the worst fabricated thing ever. It was a blatant mischief.
Mr. Mabuyane, last question, we're out of time. Will Cyril Ramaphosa close the 55th National Conference, or Dr. Zwelini Mkhize?
Ramaphosa will close the conference come the 20th of December. He's the president of the ANC. He's going to continue to be the president of the ANC. He's going to face all other issues as a member of the ANC and a leader of the ANC. What we have, all the regulations that we have put in place. We're not going to create laws as we move, simply because this happens to this and that. When we set up these decisions, we don't know who's going to be affected down the line. So we've got just to be consistent and apply that the way they are.
Thank you very much. That is Mr. Oscar Mabuyane saying that he's paid back Babalo Matigizela, saying that you can't just elect anybody into the position of leadership in the ANC, saying that unity of purpose must be about the unity of the ANC and also about the future of this country, saying that you can't leave out highly dense provinces like KwaZulu-Natal in the top echelon leadership of the party. I don't know whether he's advocating for Mdumseni Ntuli as Secretary General, but he has seemingly been nominated overwhelmingly for that position of SG by the ANC in the Eastern Cape. But there's also his former president and his former SG in the Youth League, Fikile Mbalula, who speaks to Oscar Mabuyane a lot these days, hoping to swing him over.